What's poppin'? Real ones. Logan Murdock here. We have a great show for you today. It's me, Raja, Howard, Beck. We talk about the last remnants of the finals, talk about a grid conversation on the Kevin Durant trade to Houston and the ramifications for both the Rockets and the Suns. We get into a little talk about the Jrue Holiday trade to Portland. What are these teams doing? Is this the new frontier or a sign of the new frontier of the apron era and its ramifications? We get into all of that. We get into your mailbag questions. There was a heated discussion about Jalen Green that was really unexpected. Shout out to Fresno, though. Then, Raja gets into his dad bag as well. It was a lot of fun today. A lot of fun. But, we have a great show for you. Make sure you tap in. Play the theme music right now. What's poppin'? Real ones. Logan Murdock here. Raja Bell there. Howard Beck in the back in the motherfucking cut. Howard, Raja, it's good to see you guys. More like Raja. I haven't seen Raja in fucking years. How you doing, buddy? What's going on? Where you been at?
I'm doing well. I was chasing Dia all across the country last week. We were out in Manhattan Beach for Elite 11, and then we had his official visit out in Austin over the weekend. So we were traversing the Southwest/West Coast.
Man, MVP of the Elite 11, huh?
Yeah, he did well. He had a good. I'll tell you what. Let me just say this. Yes, he did win the MVP of the Elite 11, and we are very, very proud. But the Elite 11, and I. Like Brian, I've told Brian Stumpf, who runs the Elite 11, this and his whole staff, an incredible experience, not just for the kids, but for the parents, all the things that we had, resources at our disposal. But it was cool because, I was watching all these dudes who were out there like really competing and wanted to win this MVP. But they fostered such like a culture of like fellowship and brotherhood that it was really cool to watch all these dudes out there cheering for each other, pulling for each other. And just as a college football fan, like all jokes aside, that's probably my favorite sport next to basketball. That's the face of football, like college football in like 3 or 4 years, all of these dudes that were running around that field. So I was kind of geeking out a little bit, but amazing experience.
That's dope, bro.
Yeah.
That's what's up. You got the picture, you and wifey and little homie with Sark.
Yeah. You. Equally
Coach
amazing.
Sark.
Like those, they laid it out. I think there were 17 recruits out there. It was our only official visit. Obviously, Dia's been locked in for a while, but like their recruiting department and the coaches just put on like that. Yeah, crazy.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. On the basketball court, the best players know when to pass. And off the court, you still need teammates who are there when it counts. That's where State Farm comes in. With agents and online tools to help you find the coverage you need, you can focus on what really matters, whether that's hitting game winners or just getting through the day. State Farm, with the assist. Coverage options are selected by the customer. Availability and eligibility vary by state.
Let's do it, man. Let's talk some hoops. We're gonna talk little OKC championship vibe that parade is today. Jrue Holiday trade, geez, and the KD trade. We got some mailbag questions, and we'll see where it takes us. But first, the question that I have for Raja is: if you won a championship, would you celebrate the way Oklahoma City did?
Meaning?
Well, our guy J-Dub, shout out to J-Dub, had his first drink. They had to YouTube how to pop a bottle. And I think everybody got to sleep by 11 o'clock. I think everybody was sound asleep by then.
Listen, man. If you're asking me, had we won a championship, would that have been the way? No, the answer is absolutely unequivocally no. But they are a very young team. I mean, that's just hilarious. They're a young team, and it just kind of illuminates what I already know. It's just how different the league is now. From a standpoint of like what they do in their free time, like how often they are out. And just generally the age, right? Like we didn't have as much youth on a lot of the teams we were on. So look, you win a championship, you can celebrate however you want. Good for y'all.
Howard, you were on the ground floor. What was it like to see them win the championship? And also the game was kind of but what was the overall vibe in Oklahoma City post first championship in franchise history?
So
you got exactly what you wanted in terms of like the last minutes are counting down. You got your typical crowd's getting a little louder. They can feel it. They can taste it. It's coming. You know it's in the bag because it had been a tense game, right? And you have like the whole like the Tyrese Halliburton, like just the pall that cast over everything early on. And credit. By the way, shout out to the Thunder fans. First of all, awesome fan base. I think it's the loudest arena in the NBA. But also, you could tell something was wrong with Tyrese. I know everybody on TV, based on social media, could tell me like, oh, we could see it pop. Cool, awesome, great, guys. You can't see that in the freaking arena. We just saw him go down and he's on his knees. And initially, it looked like just frustrated about turnover. Then it's clear it's something else. Anyway, shout out to the fans because as soon as he got up and had to be helped off, big cheers there, like very supportive. So the vibe by the time that you get to the end of the game, that's in the distance. Everything's awesome. But even before the celebration, everybody's like, oh, wow, they're first drinks, and they didn't know how to pop champagne bottles. Even on the court, it seemed like they didn't know what to do. They were just kind of like, okay, we're about to win a championship. Now what? And even the celebration on the court, the trophy presentation, they just all had like this kind of giddy, nervous energy, but it wasn't the same as like Kobe jumping up on the table with his arms out, KG shouting, anything is possible into the rafters, or LeBron, Cleveland, this is free. Like there was nothing. There was no like defining thing, no exultation that was like, this is the moment. And it was just funny. Like I liked it. I liked that the uniqueness of this one was that there wasn't any of those things like the KG thing or the LeBron thing or the Kobe thing. It was just them trying to figure out like, what do we feel now? We did it. Like, because they're so ahead of schedule. Youngest team to win the championship in almost 50 years. Second youngest to win it in the last 70. It's almost appropriate to just kind of like try to figure out how to feel and how to act and what to do in the moment. I thought that was actually kind of charming. The city afterward, the first championship I covered way back in 2000, like you're riding late anyway, but then you're getting these warnings at Staples Center in LA, like, hey guys, you may not want to go out to Figueroa right now. Things are kind of dicey out there. Like shit's getting turned over. I think there was a car on fire or something. It got a little messy in downtown LA. And I've been at a bunch of these. It's my 23rd finals. I haven't been there for the closeout of all of them, but every one is different. When I finally got out of the arena, I left at like 1 a.m. I was not done writing, but I wanted to grab a drink with the hospitality room 2 blocks to the hotel. I wasn't sure because I'd heard like, oh, cops are trying to clear the area. I walked out, there was like 5 people like taking photos of each other in front of like some banners in front of the arena, and otherwise like crickets. Like it was quiet. Downtown Oklahoma City is pretty quiet anyway. Now Bricktown was off to my right as I'm walking out of there. I'm sure Bricktown was hopping, but at least the 2-block walk back to my hotel from the arena was pretty darn tame. Yeah. So it seems like Thunder fans celebrated responsibly. The Thunder themselves celebrated awkwardly, but again, I think it was kind of part of the charm. Last quick note: the last championship locker room I was in was 2 years ago in Denver, and by the time I left that locker room that night, guys, I smelled like every single part of all my clothes, just into my skin, the combination of cigar smoke and champagne. And that shit lasted for like days. It didn't matter how much laundry I did. There were no cigars this time, which I was actually thankful for. Cigars are great. And the champagne was not really sprayed that much because how to spray champagne. It was definitely the tamest celebration I've ever.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Like, well, that speaks to what you asked me, Logan. Like, first of all, those guys are real young. When you talk about like Kobe, KG, LeBron, what comes to mind there is like real struggle at times for them, like real, like at least in their, Kobe maybe later, when he was younger, maybe you don't appreciate it the same way when you've got a decade into the league and you've been let down so many times. Like, not that these guys haven't overcome a lot of stuff and had their own hardships and stuff like that, but it's relatively new to them, to your point, right? And the other thing that strikes me is like Shea, now that you mention it, like in the post game, like immediate grabbed him to talk about the championship. And what struck me, as great as a player as he is what a lot of people say is like, and I don't want to say this like in a negative way, but like it was kind of dry, right? Like
Yeah.
he's kind of dry, right? Like and so that's probably just that's just who they are. When your star is like that, that's what you're probably going to be like as a team. When your star's got some shit to him and likes to party and be out, you're going to have a little bit of that as a team.
Yeah.
But also, I was just going to say, part of this is that, like, this is not a team with big personalities or shit talkers or whatever. They don't preen. They don't, like, and so when you win it all, you're not going to do they weren't shutting up the disbelievers or the non-believers or whatever. Like, there's no chip on their shoulder. There's no attitude. It was just like, we're really good.
Oh, this is great.
We're really professional.
Awesome.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
So cool.
We achieved our life dream at age 24.
Wow.
Awesome. Dude,
No.
here's the other thing. I'm sitting there typing madly between midnight and 1 or whatever, and you look up and suddenly like Lou Dort's walking through the workroom area. Now the workroom in quotes here. When you get to the finals, the workroom is sometimes just some back of house area that's just like a ton of cinder block and some TVs and some tables and power cords. That's it, man. Like there's no, it's not like some fancy room. It's really just a space that they've blocked off between other spaces back of house. The players, I don't know where they had been just prior to this, but they were trying to find their way back to wherever they were supposed to go next. And so like Lou Dort comes through with a bunch of like people trailing behind him, friends and family, whatever. Shea walks through with the freaking MVP trophy in one hand and his phone cradled in the other, and like a whole trail of like a dozen people behind him. Like, what is happening here? We're sitting like, this is literally the workroom, and the MVP, the finals MVP, is just like kind of like strolling through, trying to find his way back to another part of the arena. It was just funny. It was just like that just added to kind of the whole, like, we're doing this for the first time and everything. We're just kind of in a daze. We're not sure where we're going, what we're supposed to do next. Just kind of wandering through the press room. It was fun.
I was gonna say like they're like the Spurs with a Pinterest page, but I think the Spurs, even though
that's where were you when I needed you on deadline, Logan? I could have. That's a good line.
I'm sorry, buddy. No, but even the Spurs like have fun, right? Like I remember I was telling Howard this over the look at Raja knows, honorary Spur Raja Bell knows. I was telling Howard this yesterday. We were talking about what we were going to talk about today, but like when the Spurs lost in 2015 in the first round of the Western Conference playoffs to the Clippers, they took the team bus to Hollywood Boulevard and just found themselves on TMZ. That's how hard they were going, right? Yeah. I don't even think that there's like, I don't know if this is the culture now. Like, I don't know if this is like, these are still pandemic babies, right? Like, I don't know what this is, but like they didn't seem to, I don't know, man. Like, it felt like Howard had a better time with Barkley a couple weeks ago, right? Like, and while,
speaking of smelling like cigar smoke,
right?
Speaking of smelling like cigar smoke for the next 3 days. I finally got to wash that shit, by the way. When you're on the road for like 3 straight weeks and like, it's hard to get to laundry. I'm not sending it out to do hotel. Like, I had to like sequester the cigar bar clothes in a separate plastic bag in a separate compartment of my suitcase so it wouldn't pollute the rest of it as I kept bouncing between OKC and Indy.
You can expense the laundry back. Like,
you're supposed to be on the road. Wait, the rule is you're supposed to be on the road for like 2 weeks, and I had like bounced home for like a 16-hour space early in the series, and I thought like, I'm not. Do I need
Dollinger would approve this expense, dude? Come on,
but some bean counter in Stockholm might have shot me down. It's happened.
Some bean counter. Oh shit! All right, let's get this back on the rails. Jesus.
Shout out to the bean counters in Stockholm. I love you. Please keep approving all of my expense reports. I got another one coming shortly.
Hey, next Sweden trip, we got to bring Raja. Bro. We got to bring him over to Sweden. I'm sure he'll be a legend there.
I'm down for Sweden.
Love Stockholm. But quick, by the way, last footnote on the aftermath, because I went to breakfast yesterday in Oklahoma City because I couldn't get out. I couldn't get a flight until like the afternoon. So I had a nice leisurely day downtown OKC. Who do I see at breakfast?
Who do you see?
Mark Dagnall. Mark Dagnall, just chilling with his high school coach and a high school teammate. You would have thought this was like just another summer day, hanging out. You would never known that, like, so this goes right to the coach as well as the players and he was people were coming up and congratulating him, taking photos with him and all that. Like, that was cool. But Mark Daigneault did not look like a man who had just been partying all night or anything. He looked like he had just maybe finished mowing the lawn and now was having a nice breakfast with his high school coach, hanging out.
God bless.
Yeah.
I would have been sleep. I would have been headache, knocked,
Dude.
sleep.
I mean, to be clear, I didn't get breakfast until maybe like 10:30. So it's not like it was early, but still, man.
Would have been knocked.
Still, yeah. You just won the championship. Like, he should have still been like, past.
That means you woke up at 8:30, bro. I'm knocked, dude. You're not.
And he was there
like 2.
And he was definitely there before me. So I'm just like,
yeah, bro. Come on.
This is a very tame.
You and Raja had more fun at the pre live pod in San Francisco, dude.
I had exponentially more fun than that on Dia's official visit to Texas.
Oh shit!
Like, yeah, no, I mean, like, yeah, with no 8:30 wake up calls on Sunday morning, my boy. That wasn't happening. Yeah, you're supposed to be getting it. That's just fascinating to me. Like, it's neither here nor there, but like, how far away from the way our generation of player, enjoyed themselves this generation is. It's
I don't know though, Rob. Because if Anthony Edwards would have won a championship, I guarantee you that there would.
The Nuggets,
he's the same age as Shea. So.
The Nuggets win hard. I don't know about the Celtics, because the Celtics are kind of built like the Thunder, right? Like really sedate kind of personalities, and maybe not. Like, I don't remember.
I'm not going to a kickback thrown by Jalen Brown. It's not happening. I'm not going to a party thrown by him. It doesn't seem like a good time.
I don't remember last year's footage with them.
Anyways, are we anything about the Pacers really quickly? Like, what do the Pacers do this summer with Hallie just tore? This is not for you, Raj. It's fine. You just sit this one out, buddy. You go on the other side of the court. I'm
gonna doodle for a second.
A doodle for a bit.
Yeah.
I feel like the Pacers are big Celtics vibes from the Pacers this offseason. Like, I don't know what do they do?
Like gap year kind of thing, you mean?
I guess so, but like, I don't know, because I don't even know if you can have a gap year in the apron era. We're going to talk about this with the Jrue Holiday trade, but like, you have to pivot really fast in this league.
Like, it's tempting to look at what they have done at times without Halliburton, including in Game 7, and go like, man, this team, they're about their system, they're about ball movement, and like, you could ride TJ McConnell here and there and Nembhard here and there, but no, like, you're not back in the mix for the Eastern Conference Finals without Halliburton, and you're going to miss the whole. So it is a gap year almost by definition. The difference is, like, this is a younger team. Like, they're not as capped out as the Celtics. They're not as, like, they don't have to take steps backward. They do need to re-sign Miles Turner, but like, the Pacers just got here. Halliburton's young. Most of the core is young. I think they're fine. Like, it sucks. Like, it sucks absolutely beyond belief that it happened. I can't help but think about the fact that, like, to the Pacers' credit, they extended the series. But if they had just folded in Game 6, Game 7 never happened. Like, I hate to say it, but like, you can't help but think about the what ifs and other paths that could have unfolded. I think the Pacers are still a really good team next year, but obviously they're not in the mix, I don't think, the Eastern Conference Finals or for the conference title. I don't think you're going out and making a move like, oh, can we get a stopgap to... No, like, nobody's replacing Tyrese Halliburton. That dude's unique. He's the heart of your team. So, I don't know. They have a lot to think about. They're smarter than I am. Kevin Pritchard in that front office will figure it out. But I think most likely the way you look at this, exactly what it looks like. For a really good team that just had a breakthrough season that nobody expected, we ourselves did not expect, and we know what we've got. We're going to hold it together, and next season we'll battle, do what we can.
Right, Raja?
Yep.
All right, let's talk about the Jrue Holiday trade. I was really like fretting this podcast. Like, what are we going to talk about that's new? What are we going to talk about that's like, fresh? And then the good old Celtics leak a trade that they're trading Jrue Holiday to the Portland Trail Blazers for Anfernee Simons and 2 second-round draft picks. I think I'll start with Howard on this one. I think that this is like something that we're going to see more and more. This is why analysts and observers and everyone you talk to around the league say this is going to be a crazy offseason filled with crazy, curious trades, just because there's a lot of contracts that have been grandfathered into this apron era. Jrue Holiday is one of them. There's another one. Kristaps Porzingis has a big deal. A lot of them on the Boston Celtics who have an expensive roster. But you're going to see these kind of like these trades where it's like, okay. And Jrue Holiday seems to be one. We knew he was probably going to get traded, especially after Tatum gets hurt. But for Anfernee Simons, that's not a bad return. I don't know how he's going to be defensively, culture shatter, but he's going to be a good scorer that can play alongside Jalen. What do you think about the deal?
Listen, we knew all this was coming, even without the Jason Tatum Achilles injury, even without the quote unquote gap year assumptions. You knew that the Celtics, because of second apron issues and cap, luxury tax, everything, like sale of the team, you knew they were going to pare back. So you knew that Jrue Holiday, Kristaps Porzingis, maybe others would be in play, and there's probably more to come. The question was always going to be, what are you getting back? How are you managing? Like, how are you scaling down the salary structure of your payroll while also staying competitive and keeping yourself in a position to be in contention again when Tatum's healthy? This was Anfernee Simons is on an expiring contract. So did they acquire him because they think, oh, this is a good young piece to add to our core when we make another run? Or did they acquire him because he's an expiring contract and they're just going to let him walk away at the end of the season? Maybe they're going to flip him in the meantime. I don't know. This thing happened on my very, very, very long drive back from LaGuardia late last night. And I'm still, I have barely gotten dived in. So I will say, so Jrue Holiday's got like 2 more years left after next season, including a player option. He goes $32 million, 34.8, and $37 million in 27-28. Whereas Simons is making like I think 27 or something. I think that's a part of this.
What do you think of the fit, Raja, when you have a guy that is an institutional piece for the Celtics and Jrue Holiday, and then you bring him back with he's a good scorer, has done some good things, but Anfernee is not a culture setter for Boston, right? Like he's not. It seems like a very, if you're the Celtics, a hard trade-off to have, but what do you think of that fit in the meantime?
Well, I mean, they're in a situation where they got to make some tough calls, period, right? So, you're going to have to part with something somewhere that you ideally don't want to part with, for all the reasons Howard just talked about in terms of length of contract and then flexibility to get out of it. It makes sense in those regards. I'd also just say, like, in a weird way, you weren't winning a championship this year anyway without Jason Tatum, in my estimation. And so, the leadership that Jrue brings and the intangibles that he bring to get you over the hump in that championship chase, I guess, aren't maybe as important. Like, I'm just spitballing here because I wasn't tapped in like that. But you're not going to, those things aren't going to be 100% necessary in a year where we don't have to have this championship, right? Like, we'd love to have it, but it's really expensive. It becomes punitive, and we're not winning anyway this year. And then Anfernee, while he might not do that, you do have a void in your scoring and a dude who, your guy is gone. So, like, Jalen's stepping into that role, and who's going to be the number 2 dude that can go get you a bucket? So you get a look at a younger player who might be able to do that for you, right? With the flexibility that if it doesn't work and there's a problem with it, we're out after a year. Plus, we were going to have to make some moves anyway. So, like, it's neither here nor there for me, but, like, I don't hate it. Like, something was going to have to be done.
Is this a blockbuster deal, Howard?
People need to stop putting that. I can't remember who I saw within the last 24 hours go, another blockbuster after the Bane and Durant. The Bane deal was not a blockbuster. This one certainly. Durant, you can say. I just wonder, like, what the Celtics look like, assuming that Simons is staying, and then there's not another maneuver here. And I don't know, like, is Porzingis going next, whatever. Like, the defensive backbone of this team was really important, right? And you've already lost Tatum, who's a good defender, and Jrue, who's an elite defender. Still got Derek White. Moment. Simons is not a defender. I just like the personality of the team is already changing, and it's just going to be a really interesting stretch for the Celtics as they navigate this weird, whatever you want to call it, their gap year, their interregnum, to roll out an SAT word like
what? Can you spell that, Raja? Because I can't.
it's like a pause, like a little.
Use it in a sentence, please. Oh, you kind of already did, huh? Yeah. Well, good job.
I wouldn't know. I don't know why that popped into my head. Yeah, as I said, guys, it's been a long few weeks.
Net alert.
But there's this like this. What is this season for the Celtics? Like we are just now starting to learn what it might be, right? And this is just step one. I don't know what's coming. We got a lot of off season to go here, but their core personality has already changed, and their core skill set has already changed. Simons is a great scorer, not a defender. Much, much younger. Are you just trying to get younger? Or are you just trying to fix your cap? I don't know. I don't know what this.
Yeah, we'll see. The last thing I'll say on this, because we really all want to just talk about Kevin Durant right now. The last thing I'll say on this is the NBA is getting exactly what they want with this, right? They're getting player movement. There's going to be so many people that are teams that are going to try to gut their roster and help, make a deal to get Porzingis. I don't think he's going to be back next year. Derek White isn't going to be back next year, but you're going to see this a lot this offseason with all these expensive rosters and, like Howard said, getting the book straight. And so I think this is going to be an interesting summer. So we'll see what happens. But I just want to thank Kevin Durant and his representation first and foremost. The reason being, and me and Howard talked about this yesterday, thanks so much for making this trade happen in June as opposed to August or some shit. We really appreciate it. Thanks to all the teams involved, all the executives, everybody involved. We really appreciate it. That being said, Raja, Kevin Durant to the Houston Rockets for Jalen Green, Dillon Brooks, the number 10 pick in this year's draft, 5 second-round picks. What do you think of this for both sides?
I'd love it for Houston. Yeah, I think if you could get Kevin Durant and not have to part with Şengün or Amen Thompson or Fred VanVleet for that matter, like I think you're good. Like Jalen Green led them in scoring, and he's a good young player. But for a team that was, what were they, second in the West this year?
Yep.
And knocking on the door, we saw his youth play itself out in the playoffs, right? When they needed him to be there, like they did not have that guy. So, obviously Kevin Durant is that in spades, but getting Kevin Durant or a piece like Kevin Durant to add to kind of that nucleus without having to give up those pieces, I thought was dope. I actually don't hate it for the Suns. I mean, I've heard people argue that like they could have gotten more, but like we had spoken on the pod about, and you guys had talked about the market not being what people necessarily think it should be for Kevin Durant at this stage in his career. So I'm not mad at it. Like Jalen Green, again, like he was the leading scorer on the number 2 team in the Western Conference last year. Like there are some flaws. He's a young player, but getting better. I'm a Dillon Brooks fan. Like I think he adds a level of backbone and toughness anywhere he goes. Now it comes with some shit sometimes, but I think you need those guys on your roster. I would always keep a guy like that on my roster. And then they're able to, they get some picks back. You get some ammunition. You get a top 10 this year, and then some more ammunition, by the way, a second round. I didn't hate it. I love it for Houston. I didn't hate it for the Phoenix.
Yeah. Let's go the Kevin Durant angle first. I do want to talk about Phoenix because I do have some thoughts on them, but, I'm happy about this trade for Kevin. I think this is I wrote about it yesterday on theringer.com. Make sure you guys go check that out. I think this is a really good reset for him, considering, just the decisions that he's made over the last few years in terms of teams, like have gone down horribly. and you put him with a good nucleus and a team that actually needs him. I do have some reservations with the leadership aspect. If he's going to be a number one leader in that locker room, and he's going to have to figure out you need a certain type of personality for the team like that. And I guess you can make the argument that Ime Udoka will be that type of leader.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Van Vliet,
he
too.
will be
Van Vliet.
Yeah.
Sure. But the thing that's always been with Durant is he's always been supremely gifted on the basketball court in a way that you kind of need him to be that type of leader, and he just hasn't been that type of leader. And because of the gravity that he has, he can either bring the locker room up or down. And the last couple of stops, he's done the latter. He's brought he in tandem with a lot of different things. The locker room just hasn't been what you would want it to be for a championship team. So there's going to have to be some soul searching on that point for the Rockets, no matter, I think, who the leadership is, because he's such a big piece. And that's kind of what the first thoughts that I got going into this and his fit there, Raja.
Yeah, that's cool. I think that, Howard, great point on Fred VanVleet, because he's he's got some shit to him too. But I think a lot of the Kevin Durant piece, teams can be led and follow the lead of like an in locker room leader. In a lot of instances, you'd love to have that, like a really strong personality who's one of your best players that just drives culture. But in other instances, it can be driven by leadership. Front office can have a very, very strong culture that they build, and that permeates through the building. And in other instances, it can be the coach. And Ime Udoka is certainly a dude that drives culture. So I would bet you like that in this situation, Kevin Durant as the leader, or at times, the perception of the lack of leadership isn't going to be an issue at all. I think they're uniquely equipped with Ime in that seat, and Fred VanVleet, that he hops in there and he's fine. I mean, who was leading it this year? You're Jalen Green wasn't your culture driver, was he? Like it was.
No,
right?
I think it was Ime Udoka's team. Like
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but I also think that's why they got Van Vliet when they got him. Remember, like when they first brought him in, it was they're young, they got a lot of talent, a lot of recent lottery picks, whatever. They need a culture shift, and that I think Ime and Van Vliet came around. I think it was the same summer, right? And you like having that extension of the coach on the court. Both because he's the point guard in this instance, but also because like another kind of like no nonsense, gonna tell you what's up kind of personality. And so I think that's great. And I also think like Durant is like, we've seen a lot of guys like this over the decades, right? He'll be the best player on your team, and he's a culture setter in the way he plays. And he's the quote unquote lead by example type, by which I mean, if you're leading by example, you're not actually a leader. Like, it's fine that you're the first dude in the gym. It's fine that you work hard. It's fine that you do everything you're supposed to do and get your stuff done. It's fine that you play the right way or whatever else. Any of those other descriptions you want to put on having a best player who upholds certain standards that everybody else has to follow. That's fine. But we know what we mean when we say leader. We mean the guy who can actually get in guys' faces and tell you when you're out of line or tell you when you're not moving the ball or whatever. And Durant's actually the kind of guy who actually, I think, benefits sometimes from having one of those guys next to him to remind him when to do the right thing. Because when you're to that talented, sometimes you forget that you have teammates. And I think Durant's been a really selfless star for most of his career, but everybody needs that reminder sometimes. So whether that's the coach with Ime, whether it's Van Vliet, like I saw versions of this, like even with, like Carmelo Anthony's not at Durant's level, but Carmelo was a really great scorer who was at his best when he had either Jason Kidd or Chauncey Billups as his point guard. Guys who were like really strong personalities, strong leaders who knew the game, who were super smart and would and could call you out when needed. And everybody else too, for that matter. Not just So I think it's a good situation for him. Also, like at this stage of his career, he's turning 37 in September. KD's still been pretty productive, but like you don't want to be the night in, night out, carry the team guy anymore. And they're better off that he can be the closer, but they've got Şengün can score, and Van Vliet, Amen Thompson obviously is just growing by leaps and bounds, and I think ultimately becomes their best player after Durant retires. I'm curious to see how KD decides what the balance is between fitting in or being the guy, right? Like, how much do you want to blend versus how much do you want to lead in terms of even just like how much of the offensive load you take on? Because he knows his body. He knows he's getting toward the end. And I'm sure he can recognize that Amen Thompson's going to be an absolute stud in this league. We thought the Phoenix was going to be like the last chapter, but now, like, okay, this is the last chapter. I mean, God forbid there's another trade. I don't think so. I think this is probably where KD retires. What do you want out of that last stop now that you...
Yeah. And I mean, like, one of the things that me and Howard have talked about, and me and Raj have talked about, is like KD's one of them players that deserves this at the end of his career, right? And I think over the last few years, you've seen some of his peers kind of get at least a chance, one last chance to, get to the mountaintop, right? LeBron has Luka, Steph has Jimmy Butler, and they've seen that success over the last 5 years that a guy like KD and his talent should be, right? This is the stage that he should be at, right? And he hasn't gotten to that stage for a myriad of reasons, right? You talk about what happened with Kyrie and what happened with James Harden in Brooklyn and how that didn't go well. And then we already have kind of lived through what's going on in Phoenix. And to your leadership point, Howard, you're right on track when you talk about him needing somebody that's hard-nosed beside him, because he didn't have that in Phoenix. And you kind of saw where the locker room went. Like Chris Paul leaving that Phoenix team when he did was like really catastrophic in that time, right? Like there was no one to kind of galvanize that locker room, because D-Book is the same way as KD is. He needs somebody that's going to, shift culture. But I'm happy for it ultimately. I want to see a guy like KD I don't know how far Houston is going to go, but the West is wide open, right? Like, I think that they can make some noise. We'll see what happens. How big, though, Raja, is the growth of Amen Thompson in this, right? Like, he still needs, for them to kind of take that next step, he needs to become whatever, platitude of players that he's supposed to be. But, like, what does he need to do next year? What do you need to see from him?
First of all, I want to go back to the Devin Booker and Kevin Durant thing. Like, you can get away with that, but you need your coach to be that dude then. You need him to be the driving force of culture and leadership and have the strong hand and be just a stud in that way, right? And they couldn't find that with those two, right? So, like, then you have to have it on the court. But Amen Thompson, this is a really good situation for him as I see it, because he doesn't take the step next year into the dude that I think he can be. That doesn't happen over a summer, right? Like, so, I think as he was this past year and as close as they got to having real legs in the Western Conference playoff race with who he was this year, adding Kevin Durant's skill set to that, you're already better. If he gets better over the summer, just marginally better, one summer better, then you have a shot, even in the Western Conference. Now, what we don't want to do is stunt his growth in any way, shape, or form, because this is a long play with him, right? Like, the player we're thinking we might see maybe 2-3 years down the line when he's mastered like all of these different areas of the game to go along with all of the cool shit he's already got. So as an organization and as KD, you got to kind of be mindful of stunting his growth long term, right? Like, we still want to give him an opportunity to explore some of these areas in game. But I think it's good for him because the pressure doesn't fall to him this year to have to be that in a way that the Rockets would need him to be it without KD to be successful. So with KD there, it's not unlike the Luka situation. I mean, the Cooper Flag situation, going to a place like Dallas, where you have these dudes who can do all of that. And so I can just continue to be this great talent, this winning talent, this explorative like talent, and develop into exactly what I should be in the time that is appropriate for that to happen. So I think it's a really good fit. And I do think Amen Thompson, yes, the upside is extremely high. The ultimate upside of that was not going to be reached over the course of one summer. So I don't think this stunts it at all, really.
Also, man, like, they didn't give up Jabari Smith Jr. too. Like, this is a deep roster, dude. Right. Like, they're going to be really good. I don't know what they're going to be, I just know I'm going to be excited to watch them play. Right, like
Yeah.
they're going to be really fun to watch.
Part of the reason, just part of the reason why this is such a great deal for them is that they got Durant while still keeping a ton of first round picks that they've gotten, including Phoenix's still, without giving up any of their best players. Like, I know Jalen Green was leading scorer, but he was not their best player. He was not one of the most important players. He was among their high profile players. He was probably the most dispensable. I think they might miss. It's going to sound like I'm just being a dick now. They're going to miss Dillon Brooks more than Jalen, especially
Negative.
because what's that?
Negative.
They will.
Man, he's their leading scorer, Howard. Like, I can hear the way you feel about him, but like, yeah, you don't
inefficient, and they had to bench him in fourth quarters of playoff games. Raja,
I'm not going to argue with you on this, Howard. You don't like your best scorer. People are your best scorers because the team recognizes he's the best scorer, not because he takes all the shots. Like, there's a deference that comes in a locker room. Like, if I'm the coldest motherfucker on the planet, I'm not about to watch you go out there and shoot all the shots and lead us in score. And so, what I'm saying to you is, at least in some part, people on that roster.
But what if you swapped him for Kevin Durant?
Yeah, they replaced him with KD. So, like, it's not.
Well, that's not what. That's of course Kevin Durant is better than that, but like that is a player. He is a good player. Like, he's not a finished product, but that's a very good player. Now, you could argue with me that Dillon Brooks, if you bring Kevin Durant in there and put him on a team, would you miss Dillon Brooks on the Kevin Durant led Rockets more, or Jalen Green?
Yeah, they're going to miss Dillon Brooks more. They're not going to miss Jalen Green.
But
okay. They couldn't wait to get rid of Jalen Green.
I disagree.
Okay.
He's a look.
Okay.
I don't like to hear anybody like Jalen Green's a basketball player, bro. He's a good basketball player.
Yeah, no, he is.
He's got shit to grow on. He's got to get better. But like, I'm gonna give him his motherfucking flowers on being the leading scorer on a second place team in the Western Conference. Like, that's gonna happen.
It's fine. I get it. He's a volume scorer. He's not efficient, and they couldn't trust him in quarters. It's a short-term fix with Kevin Durant.
So was Kevin Durant until he got to the Golden State Warriors and won a championship. Like, he might not have been inefficient, but he didn't win shit. Like, we can't listen. I'm not
comparing Oklahoma City era Kevin Durant to Jalen Green.
But Howard, look, you're kind of falling into the category of dudes I used to argue with in front offices, dog. Like, analytics be damned. Like, there's a level of basketball player that goes out there, and my man can hoop. I'm not going to argue with him that like Kevin Durant is clearly, I'm a fucking Kevin Durant stan. Like, yes. But like, trying to make it sound like he wasn't worth what he was worth to Houston last year, I think is a little disrespectful to him.
Okay. As we move to the Phoenix side of this, though, Raja, you take him and you put him next to Devin Booker. Mm-hmm. And now I'm worried about like if I'm the Suns, I'll just say this. And again, that's your team. And I think you're already going glass half full here on the trade for them, because most people have hated this for the Suns side of it. Do you like Devin Booker and Jalen Green together? And if I were to say, as I have said, probably on the phone with Logan yesterday, I'm moving Jalen Green as quickly as I can and flipping him for something else. Are you disagreeing, or do you think that is actually a rational, logical pairing? I'm
fine with that. I said I didn't hate it for the Suns because, like, you had to move Kevin Durant. You weren't moving Devin Booker. And if you had to move Kevin Durant and you're able to get a young scorer like Jalen Green, a piece like Dillon Brooks, and a bunch of picks, like, if the market isn't there for him, I said I didn't hate it for him. But I'm not arguing if I can flip that and get something that fits better with Devin Booker, I'm fine with it.
How's the fit? Yeah, but that's the thing. How's the fit? Because I don't like the.
Yeah, I'm not saying that it's a great fit. Like, those are two dudes that like to have the ball in their hands. Like, I think Devin Booker's way further along, obviously, in his arc as a professional, and I don't love the natural fit of it, right? But that's not what I was arguing previously.
No,
what
I get
arguing was the value that he had to Houston, right? But
yeah,
if you're telling me they can flip him and get something that's more complementary with D Book as a player and in terms of like as a natural like fit in terms of arc of windows and whatnot, like, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I think that Phoenix doesn't necessarily have a plan here because, like, obviously they got the 10th pick and all that stuff, but they're not winning a championship with this roster, which is what Matt Ishbia says he wants to do. for Devin Booker. And the only way to win a championship right now, as they're currently constructed, is to break everything down and build from within, and then build up a championship roster. I just don't. I feel like Matt Ishbia, and he's gotten a lot of heat on this pod, but I feel like he is the guy that, and we all know this person, that you tell him it's this isn't the right play. Like, experienced people are telling him, yo, this isn't the right play. And he's doubling and tripling down to prove to everybody that he can make this happen, when the people that are telling him are right. And I don't know where this goes, because I think he's past new owner syndrome. I think it's just like right now, Howard, I just think like it's just an ego play.
Man, listen, this is just a kind of a cleanup on aisle 7 of the last couple of screw ups, right? Like, you're not getting back the value for Durant that you shipped out to get Durant. You're never recouping what you got on the Beal side of it, and you're stuck with Beal. You're just stuck, period. And so this is just like step one toward trying to get unstuck. That's all this is. The Suns are not moving the ball forward here. They're simply trying to get unstuck. You pissed off KD by trying to trade him without talking to him at midseason. Now you have to trade him. You're already out all the draft picks that you sent out to get him in the first place. There's no upside here other than we need to get our books back in order. We need to give ourselves flexibility again. We need to hope that there's some way of you're not saving face. You're not even being competitive. Like, this is still not, I don't even know this is even a play-in team yet. And you're stuck with Beal. They should be trading Devin Booker. Devin Booker says he doesn't want to go. They say they don't want to trade him. Fine. Like, I get it. That's probably not happening. And so I shouldn't waste that much time on it. But the best path back to functionality as a franchise is trading Booker, because the package you got back from Durant did not make you better. Maybe they can flip Jalen Green for pieces that are better fitting with Book. You're not trading Beal because he's basically untradeable, and if you do trade him, it's going to be for negative value. There is no short-term path back to respectability here with the team you have and with the payroll as it is. Your best way out of this is to actually trade Devin Booker, the one guy who can get you a shit ton back and put you on the path back to like a functional roster. But as long as that's not happening, the rest of this is almost irrelevant. They're not going anywhere. The Suns are a mess.
And reputationally, I want to add to this before we get to mailbag. I think reputationally, how they treated Kevin is going to reverberate for them for sure. Like, you talk about the trade and the blindsidedness, like, the way you win in the NBA is stars, and stars see how you treat other stars. And I think that that's something that's going to follow Matt Ishbia, because for a minute, man, and follow the front office and the Suns for a minute, because you have to, no matter, even if you trade him, you have to treat your players right, or to a certain standard. And I know that there was back and forth, but you made a commitment to KD. You got to at least do right by him in this way. And I think that they have fumbled on that. And I think that the rest of the league is watching this, not just from like how you treated a player, but just like, you just get your shit together. And the Suns, we all know this. Me and Roger talk about this all the time. The Suns have an incredible fan base, has a really great basketball culture, and knows what it takes to win. And you come up in here with all your bread and stuff like that, and then kind of fumble out the gate. And I think the fan base at first sees it as like, hell yeah, you're wanting to win and you're ready to put resources around it. But like, it's the honeymoon phase is over. Like, I think Ishbia has a lot that he needs to prove over the next few years. This is a start to that, but like, there's a long road back to where he wants to get to. So we'll see what happens. For 50 minutes in, we haven't seen our guy Cliff, and we're going to change that now. Cliff, what's up, buddy? How we doing?
Family.
Are you doing okay in the heat, brother?
Yeah, I'm chilling, bro. Come on, man.
How was Juneteenth weekend? You didn't invite me, Raj, and Howard out to DC with you.
Come on, man. What you mean? It was cool, man. DC was
Raj, he had so much fun he got stuck in an elevator. That's how much fun he had.
Oh, that's a nightmare.
Who took that photo, Cliff?
How long were you in it?
So we was going to so there's a spot called Park in DC, and we were going up to the third floor because that's where our like little table thingy was. And
Ooh,
it
at
was
a table? Woo.
I didn't have the table. It was just like one of my friends' friends is like a content creator, so he just wanted to record like the night that was or whatever his Juneteenth weekend was going to be. So we got stuck in the elevator. He had the little phone joint out with the, I'm talking about the little handheld joint where it keeps the camera still, keeps the phone still. So it was one of those situations. But yeah, we was in the elevator for a little hot second. We got out of there. Luckily, they reset the elevator at Park. You had to walk up 3 floors, and we had a good night, man. So it was a good time in DC.
How long were you in the elevator?
Like, I don't know, 10, 15.
Oh, that's light.
Yeah. So it wasn't too bad. It was luckily it didn't go up, so we didn't get stuck like in the middle between floors and whatnot. That would have been even worse. But yeah, they just reset the thing. It was cool. Walked up, had a good night. You know what I mean? Had some fun. Had a good time. Raj, you know how that be.
I do know how that goes. Good for you, bro.
Did you have a better time than the Oklahoma City Thunder?
Man, leave the young boys alone, man. They just want to go home, kick it, play their games, have fun.
Read some
they don't
Bible
need to
verses.
like they don't need. They don't need to be outside drinking and whatnot, doing things that
There isn't an outside in Oklahoma City. To be fair, there's
it's
not
an outside. There's an outside everywhere, bro. You can't tell me it's not an outside.
But by the way, I can't remember who sent it to me, but somebody on Blue Sky did send me a map of the parade route to reemphasize the fact that there is plenty of square footage there for them to have a decent sized parade without ending up in. So thank you for whoever sent that to me. It's a good running. It's a good running.
Oklahoma City, where everybody gets home in 5 minutes after the biggest parade in the state history.
You can't even celebrate after the game either.
I just want for the record, anybody who's now getting annoyed at this, now it's Logan making fun of size, not me now. So direct all the irony.
Hey, Howard, it's actually the biggest state capital in the country, or one of them. So you can shut the hell up. Anyways, Cliff, what's the first question?
All right, this is Playing Injured from Ziad Ahmad Parker. Hi, guys. I want to know from Raja, what's his take on playing injured? Like what happened, what Halliburton did. I mean, biggest game of his career for sure. And I'd probably do it as well. But yeah, is it worth it in the long term? Love the show and the energy. Great group of guys that Logan brings together so well. Kind regards, Ziad Ahmad Parker.
This is a tough one for me because having played through a torn calf, right? It's going to come off very hypocritical. And when you're in it, and like Hallie put out whatever he put out about he'd do it all over again, like given the opportunity to try to win for the city. Like that's genuine, man. That's the way you feel. Like you feel like you've let everyone down when you get injured, even though you don't control that. You feel like you've let your team down. You feel like you've let the city down, your coaches, the organization, everybody. And so, the champion in you, like the warrior in you, wants to get out there and go and give it everything you have. Then when I stepped away from it, and I remember, the first time I really felt like that was watching KD. And I referenced this the other day. I was sitting with Texas's general manager at this official visit, and he was asking me some questions. And I said, yeah, when Kevin Durant, when he had that calf strain, I was begging him, like no one would, he wasn't listening to what we were saying, or no one in Golden State was either, but I was with another company at the time. I was like, don't go out there and do it. Do not go out there and do it. And I was saying the same to Hallie this time because it's not worth that. Like it's just not worth that. And I say all that to say that at some point, I tried to fool our medical team, right? Like, and I was able to do that. Like I was able to go and get acupuncture and different kind of treatments over the course of 3 days that basically shut the nerves off in my lower leg. So when they were putting me through all the tests that they were kind of using their eyeball to figure out whether I was good enough to play or not, the pain wasn't there. So I could fool them a little bit, right? And that's what we'll try to do. But it's your organization's job to kind of protect them from themselves, right? Like, and even if they can fool medical, then it falls to like the executives to make those calls in a way that are responsible. And I get it. Like you're in a 1-game scenario there, right? You've come you're 99.9% of the way home. Like Kevin Durant might've been 7? Was he in game 7 as well?
It was like
no
5.
Right. So maybe a fractionally less. So that's an incredibly difficult call to make. And I respect that. Like I don't envy that. But man, those lower leg pulls. If you're telling me it's a pulled groin, a pulled hamstring, a pulled adductor, you know what I mean? Like any of those. But when you start messing with that calf, which is directly related in that kinetic chain to that Achilles, I hope that boys start looking at that now and saying, yeah, I can't fucking go out there and do that.
Yeah. Should the team have stopped him? Should somebody else, Raja, like, because you just said it. You were able to fool your medical staff back in the day. Maybe that you'd have a harder time doing that with all the technology they got today.
Right.
But like, shouldn't somebody else be stepping in like, no, we know that a strained calf can lead to a ruptured Achilles. No, you can't play.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, Howard.
Okay.
Like, because, and in fairness to like the people that I fooled, you didn't have a litany of pulled, of torn Achilles recently, right? And you didn't have any that you pointed to like calf strain, game later, torn Achilles. Like there was nothing to suggest that at the time. It's out there now.
Yeah. And it also like, it's funny, Nico Harrison got a stray for this too. I saw on social media because of him reportedly trying to rush Luka Doncic back from a calf injury this season. Ooh. Or at least using that as a reason to be mad at him for the trade.
Yeah.
But it's calf injuries are tricky, right? Because on the surface, you're like, it's just a calf, dude. Like, relax. But like you said, it's on the kinetic chain. And someone who lived every day of that KD return, it was just nauseating, just all of the updates. And it was very clear, and I kept getting a flashback. It was very clear that KD shouldn't have played for the rest of that series. And I know why, right? Like, on the surface, yes, you shouldn't play on a strained calf, but Raja knows this. There's so many factors that's in play, right? Especially when you are the guy on a roster in a stage like the NBA Finals, right? And so many legacies are on the line. But I remember when the calf injury first happened. I believe it's when it first happened, right? I think it was when I saw. Was it Game 2, Howard?
Or Houston?
No. I'm sorry. I'm talking about Halliburton. Was it Game 2 when the calf injury happened?
He had I think he had like an ankle thing first, and then it was like, and then he said when he was asked about it, he said they were separate injuries because the calf thing, like he limped away from Game 2 in Oklahoma, and people noticed it as he was leaving the arena. But that was what he said. It was a different injury. By the time the calf thing happened, which was, I think, Game 3 or 4, and he was asked to clarify, he said it was, I don't know, man. And we know how this goes. Like, one thing can lead to the next.
And then Game 5, he was really nursing that calf. And I was like, man, are we sure he should be playing right now?
Right, because 5, he didn't make a shot. He was like, oh,
he couldn't move.
He could barely move.
And he tripped and fell in like this in a similar way, and it just didn't look good. Like, if I'm the Pacers, and again, we ain't shit. We're just, three or four schmucks talking. But if I'm them, I see what happens in Game 5. What me and Howard saw with our own eyes because we were in the building. It looks like a guy that this was like a ticking time bomb for his Achilles. It looked like that if you watched him play. And that's why, like, I remember watching, I was not surprised at all he tore his Achilles in Game 7. As soon as he fell down, I'm like, oh, torn Achilles. It's over.
Yeah. I was hopeful that it was. I was hopeful when I saw the pop. Sorry, Howard, that it was.
I don't know.
That it was, as soon as it happened, I was with you, Logan. But I saw when they replayed it, you could see the reverberation high up in like the gastroc muscle. So I was like, man, maybe he got away with just like really popping his calf. Like maybe the calf just went. You know what I mean? Like I was holding out hope. But what happens when your calf can't do what it's supposed to do? Like it's the next closest. It puts stress on like the next closest thing, right? Like because your calf isn't operating to protect the Achilles the way that it normally should. It's exposing the fucking Achilles to a lot of stress that it's not normally exposed to. And so, again, I know what it's like to be there and look in the eyes of people and feel like, bro, we got this far. If I can just help you get through it, like, we'll be all right, and roll the dice in that way. And I rolled them, and I was lucky. It's got to be so difficult because it's got to be so difficult for the people that Howard and I are talking about that should be protecting Hallie from himself, or should be protecting me from myself, or KD from himself, because they cannot feel what we're feeling. All they can do is look at it and then look at you in the eye and be like, yo, what are you feeling? And it's an incredibly difficult thing to say, no, I'm not buying that. We're shutting you down to protect you. Like that's gotta be excruciatingly hard.
I just want to throw out one more thing on this, because this piece is about the discourse, and the media and fans are part of this too. And hell, man, even former players are part of this too. The man up, go out there and do it anyway, play anyway. And like Haliburton, his own sense of pride and responsibility might have driven him to take the risk anyway, right? He may have just done it. That's just the way he's wired. And this is why you have people needing to step in, because as a competitor, you can't sometimes reason through this, and you're going to take risks maybe you shouldn't take, and somebody else has to tell you not to. So I respect the fact that Haliburton might have done this regardless. And so it's not because of the discourse, but I hate the fucking discourse. And I hated it during the Cavs series when I heard some pretty prominent people at times saying, oh, Garland should have just manned up and got out there, whatever. Garland's now had surgery and is going to be like, I don't know if he's missing training camp or the start of the season. Like, it ended up being a pretty serious thing. It is so stupid and ignorant of us and presumptuous of us in the fucking peanut gallery to ever say that guy should play through that injury, because you don't know exactly how severe it is. We only sometimes get, 70, 80, 90% of the actual information. We don't have the MRIs in front of us, and we're not doctors or trainers. Like, it is, if a guy is not playing, my policy personally has always been, and I hope I have never veered from this, you have to defer to the player and that team that they have made the right decision. If you're thinking, why can't he play through that? Maybe there's a reason that you just don't know, because we're not privy to all of it. And before you just assume that the guy is just, being weak or whatever, however you want to frame it, realize we don't always have all the information, and it's their careers that are at stake.
Yeah.
So I fucking hate that stuff. And there was a little bit of it around this one, and there was definitely around during the Cavs series with Garland and Mobley.
What was Garland? What were their injuries? You remember?
Garland's, I think, is it
a foot injury? If I'm not mistaken,
I thought it was a foot. I'm like Googling.
Yeah,
I think it's a foot injury.
I just want to add
toe.
to that. Toe.
His big toe.
Like turf toe.
Yeah.
That's excruciatingly
toe surgery out 4 to 5 months. So
And
he needed a
your
surgery
big
that
toe,
would put him out for 4 to 5 months. And
bro,
people are
and
saying,
also
like,
your big
play.
toe is so important, dude.
No,
Like,
there's
especially
no
what he does.
There's no explosion. There's no get off with the big toe that's on fire like that. But here's, and when I played, there's so many things that you can play through, right? Like there's so many things. A general NBA player has something hurt every fucking night. Like there's something hurting you every night. Now, do you have an actual injury? Not all the time, right? And so, trying to figure your way through like what I can play through, what I can't play for. I used to always like to ask, like, can I make it worse? Right? Because like if I can make it worse, then maybe not. If this is something that's not going to get worse and it's purely pain tolerance, then I'm going to play it. Like that's not a problem. I'll play through that, right? And we'll work that out. But now again, with the amount of times that you've seen the direct correlation between the calf strain and the Achilles, the answer to that, if the question were posed, should have been, yeah, you can make it worse.
I wonder if that conversation happened, Raja. Like, I wonder if he asked it, if somebody said, yes, that is a risk, but it's up to you to take it or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, again, we will never know what that conversation was. It just sucks. I felt horrible. I had a pit in my stomach all night after that, because you just knew. We didn't know, but we knew.
No doubt.
All right, next question. This is from Dillon Bateman. Knicks coaching question. Hi, real ones. My name is Dillon from Vancouver, Canada, and I'm a longtime listener and fan of the show. I had a Mailbag question about this Knicks coaching search. If the Knicks end up hiring Taylor Jenkins, can we give the front office some credit? If Dolan doesn't know Jenkins, do we think that Leon Rose and the rest of the front office did a fake coaching search to show that all the most experienced candidates were spoken for, meaning they needed to pick their own and not Dolan's guy? I always thought that Taylor Jenkins was the best person for this job if the Knicks want their depth pieces to be stronger. So is there any way this has all been a ploy so they could hire the person they've wanted all along, but Dolan might have been hesitant about? Thanks. Love the pod. Best, Dillon.
You know what this sounds like, Raja? A Howard question.
Yeah. Facts.
Oh man. I love the theory. That's fun. I mean, listen, I'm the guy who a couple weeks ago did say again on Blue Sky and only Blue Sky. I can't tell if the Knicks front office is like trolling all of us and trolling the league or trolling the owner of the team with all of this. Can we get Jason Kidd? Nope, denied. Can we get Quinn Snyder? Can we get, like, as they're going through all these calls of trying to get all these coaches who are under contract, which is incredibly unusual. I don't think I've ever seen this happen. I haven't ever happened where they're trying to get all the guys who are already under contract first. Something about that was, I don't know, odd, off, weird. Taylor Jenkins, among the coaches who are available, is a really attractive one. Mike Brown, Michael Malone, like there are some really good, accomplished coaches who are sitting right there. If they end up with Taylor Jenkins, I think they've gotten it's a good result. To the emailer's question, like I think it's a good result. Whether it was what they wanted to do all along and the rest of this was just a show they were putting on for Dolan, I can't dismiss it. I can't dismiss anything when it comes to Madison Square Garden, an unusual place. But Taylor Jenkins would be a good result, and I'm just curious to see how soon they get there. Last I heard, the expectation was they were not hiring somebody by the time of the draft. We're now about 36 hours from the draft. A little less than that. I'm guessing not by the draft, but kind of want to get somebody in soon. You certainly have to have them in place by the time you're sending guys to summer league and trying to figure out what you're running and how you're developing guys, what the offseason program is. Like it seems like they need to get this soon.
Yep.
Perfect.
Amazing. One more?
Yeah, last one. This is real quick. This is from Tommy Statler. With KD being a notorious coach killer and Ime Udoka just having gotten an extension, who wins? Tommy Statler.
Go ahead, Logan. Go ahead.
I was going to say Ime Udoka is winning this one.
I really don't think it's going to be that adversarial. I think this is going to be a really good fit for them. I really do. I think it's going to be a great fit. Whether they ultimately win a championship or not, I don't know, but I think it's going to be this is exactly what KD needed in my estimation. Real talk.
Absolutely. I think the problem with like the last two choices that KD made in terms of free agency was that he just picked choices that just didn't suit his personality, to be honest with you. I think that maybe, part of that was like, I can do this on my own, a little bit of that, right? And but he put people around him that would not win an argument with him. Let's just say that, right? Like, in that he could kind of have more power over. Here, like, he's always kind of needed, like we said this early in the pod, he's always kind of needed just a personality, alpha, whatever you want to call it, to just kind of offset what he does, right? And I think ultimately he is going to fall in line with what Ime is talking about, because, like, at the end of the day, KD is a hooper's hooper. That's what he is. That's what he wants to do. That's who he is. He wants to play basketball, and all the other stuff will fall in line. But when you got a guy that just wants to play basketball, you need the rah types. You need the Russell Westbrooks. You need the Draymond Greens. Honestly, you need the guys that are going to be culture setters, and he
Jalen
has all
Green.
of that in one.
No? What the fuck?
Exactly. Yeah. Right. The Jalen Greens of the world. Exactly. Yeah. Anyways, this is gonna be great.
Roger's waiting till we're an hour and 8 minutes into like stir this shit up again. Nicely done, sir.
I couldn't help
Way to
go. Oh, fuck. We're back. The gang is back, motherfuckers.
Just in time to shut
right.
down for the summer.
Yep. All right. That has been another edition of Real Ones. I am Logan Murdock. That is Howard motherfucking Beck. That is Raja Bell. Cliff on the boards. Victoria on the videos. Another edition of Real Ones. Tap in with us on Friday. realonesmailbag@gmail.com. 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 We've been mailbagged out for the last few weeks, so I think we're not going to do a mailbag on Friday. And that's all I really have to tell you about Friday, because I don't know what the hell is going to go on. I don't even know who's going to be here. All the shits. Bye.
Bye.